Saturday's Penn State game at Ohio State was supposed to be the moment that the Nittany Lions were going to prove to the world that they were the real deal. Then their season fell apart and James Franklin got fired. Now it's just a dangerous game for Ohio State. I'll explain. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. We'll be in the Big Ten Club together every single day. And if you could share, like, and follow, that helps us out too. Plus, you can hype YouTube videos now. That would help too. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. So Penn State and Ohio State, dangerous game. It's this weekend. Well, Big Ten Players of the Week. And by the way, UCLA's next football coach may come from another Big Ten school and a head coach there. We'll explain and look at the odds of that. And, of course, we'll have our weekly power rankings. You don't want to miss that. But raise your hand if you're like me and you circled November 1st on your calendar when the Big Ten football schedule came out. We were very excited that Penn State was going to be playing Ohio State and Columbus. There were a lot of things at play here. You know, Ohio State would be the defending national champions, and they were a team that always had a stranglehold on Penn State. But Penn State, they won a lot of games every single year, but they could never get over the hump against Ohio State. In fact, it seems like they could never win the big one. And Ohio State was always on that list of big ones every year. But this year was going to be different, right? This year was going to be different. A lot of talent was going to be replaced on that Buckeyes team on their championship roster, so they were going to be different. And Penn State was still loaded everywhere, returning key players, including the most experienced quarterback in the country, Drew Aller. Over the summer, the preseason polls came out. Penn State was the number 2 team in the country behind Texas. Everybody expected something big out of Penn State this year. Expectations were high. That's an understatement. But things had gotten to the point at Penn State where, you know, we were saying, like, if not now, if not this year, then when were they ever going to break through? They had to do it this year. Then the season started. Frankly, Drew Aller did not look that spectacular in the non-con games beforehand, early in the season. He was completing like 54% of his passes. Then Oregon came in. That was the big one. That was the first big one. Then they came in and they broke Penn State's hearts right in front of the home crowd, a whiteout crowd on national TV. Now, if there was any silver lining, any consolation for Penn State fans at that moment, you could say, and this is not being snarky, but at least you could say they got beat by a great team and they lost a big game to a great team. That was familiar territory for Penn State fans. Again, not taking a shot, but while it was disappointing, it didn't mean that the season was over. Still plenty more season to go. But then a struggling UCLA team came, let Penn State travel to take on a struggling UCLA team out at the Rose Bowl, and they lost that. Then Penn State comes home, and that was one of those never should ever happen home losses to Northwestern. And just like that, James Franklin was fired, and we witnessed a complete collapse of a football team in a football season. Right there. Boom. Like in a 3-week span. So why is this still a dangerous game Saturday for Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes? Because other than Drew Aller, who got hurt in that Northwestern game, the talent that everybody thought was good enough to be the preseason number 2 team of the country, that talent is still on that roster. There's still a good football team in there somewhere. And at some point this season, that team's going to wake up. I mean, they're not going to run the table and lose every game. They're going to wake up and they're going to play the way that they're supposed to. The question is when, the question is against who. And a big game, number one team in the country, Ohio State, it's just that kind of game that those kids will get up for. You know, if they knock off Ohio State, they can salvage this horrible season, which seems like a waste. And that's something they can hang their hat on. And remember, these players still want to put together good tape, for their future NFL stock. So they want to look good against the best. This is their opportunity. This is their season boiled down to one game. This is where they can salvage some things here. So this is why this is a dangerous game for Ohio State. Now, Ohio State has a lot riding on this game as well. I mean, a loss to Penn State would be a major setback for the Ohio State machine. It would open the door for somebody like Oregon to jump into the Big Ten championship game fray, into the mix there. And Ohio State would definitely drop several places from the number one perch in the rankings if they lost to a team that's no longer even ranked. And what a weekend to do it, because next week is when the first college football playoff polls come out. Both teams are coming off a bye, so both have plenty of time to prepare for each other. I like that. I am particularly interested in the defensive matchup led by defensive coordinators Matt Patricia and Jim Knowles. We all know that Jim Knowles was the longtime defensive coordinator for the Buckeyes right through the national championship. And he seemed to have a bit of a falling out with Ryan Day over his contract, and he was offered $3 million at Penn State. So he bolted and he left. And he went to Penn State to go work for James Franklin, who's no longer there. So does he have any useful intel on the remaining Ohio State players that could be useful? I don't know. Does Ryan Day have any feel for what Knowles will try to scheme up for this game? Maybe. Meanwhile, on the other side, Matt Patricia, he's got the Buckeyes defense playing at a more elite level than last year's championship defense under Jim Knowles. Matt Patricia has actually fine-tuned this thing, and they are better on the defensive side of the ball. They lead the nation. They give up like 5.5 points a game. They're a stranglehold in the red zone. Teams only score 60% of the time, usually settling for field goals. Their stop rate is number one in the country at 84%. They've allowed a grand total of 41 points this year. Penn State allowed 42 points in just the UCLA game. It's pretty elite. So we'll see which defense asserts itself first in this game. We're going to hold off on making our official pick on this game until Friday's Pigskin Picks, because that's what we do, both with the points and the game total. But I would love to hear what you guys think. Let's get a little Penn State. We are Ohio State Buckeyes trash talking going. Friendly, but trash talk. Let's get it going on the comment section. A little back and forth. Penn State, do you think you have a chance of winning this game? Ohio State, do you think this is a layup? Or do you think this is going to be a tough battle? Let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comment section. Would love to hear from you. All right, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that'd be a great help, because chances are if you're watching or listening, you're a Big Ten fan. I know you know other Big Ten people that probably don't even know we're out here. Hit that little share arrow and send this podcast their way. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, we have a website, talkbig10.com. And we have all of our podcasts that go there. If you want to catch yesterday's because you missed it for a second, listen, go ahead and do it. We got links to Big Ten school merchandise, shirts, pennants, hats, all that stuff right there with the podcast. Talkbig10.com. Christmas is 2 months away. Check it out. All right. Also, quick note on Saturday. You know, we go live on Saturdays after the big games. I wanted to go live after this Penn State-Ohio State game, but I decided to wait. Part of it is because Penn State season has cratered, but I want to wait because I want to talk about a few more games. There's only a couple of noon games of the Big Ten that day. So I want to wait till the next round. The next window is done roughly after the Indiana-Maryland game is over, around 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. So that I can also recap that game as well as Ohio State game against Penn State and all the other games, and then preview the 2 night games. So we're going to go live around 7 o'clock Eastern. Mark your calendar and join us, because I get your comments there, real live time reaction. You get mine. It's a lot of fun. We do it every Saturday. All right, coming up, UCLA's next head coach. You know, they got a coaching opening as well. might come from a head coach who's at a Big Ten school right now, according to Vegas odds. We'll have our players of the week in the Big Ten. It's the Big Ten news and our beloved power rankings, 1 through 18, the way we see it. Who's in that top 4? Because we think 4 teams are going to the college football playoffs. We'll have that all coming up in a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Mazda cars, they craft cars that do more than just simply move. You know, they deliver confidence when you get behind the wheel. They've got all the safety awards you can imagine, from footwork to breath work. Athletes sweat out all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention in how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship with every detail, the metallic accents, the available Napa leather upholstery. It is spectacular. All-wheel drive standard on every crossover SUV, and you can drive with confidence through almost any season, whether it's a trip to the grocery store or a weekend road trip. Like our players, we sweat every detail at Mazda, and because you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen each and every day. Don't forget, we have audio version only too, if you want that. In addition to the, not only, but in addition to the video on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are everywhere. We're making it as convenient as possible for you to check us out. Meanwhile, if you can hit that subscribe button or share, follow, and like, that helps us out too. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. There are a couple of items I want to talk about here. The LA Times posted betting odds as to who will be the next head coach at UCLA. Of course, they fired Deshaun Foster 4 weeks into the season. And on top of that list, in fact, there's several Big Ten coaches on that list. Washington head coach Jed Fish is at 3-1 odds to become the next coach at UCLA. Like, he would get Washington. I think he's got Washington stepping forward. They've got some momentum. Ready to leap into that next level. Would he do all that only to jump to the UCLA job? I don't know, but he's the favorite at 3-1. And then Michigan State coach Jonathan Smith, he's next on that list, 4-1 odds. And it's no secret he's in trouble at East Lansing, and he's in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, but he is from Southern California. Might be interesting. He might be interested. Again, 4-1 odds for him. You know, the next coach on that list is James Franklin, 9-2 odds. So the top 3 odds are either current or former Big Ten coaches on that list to be the next coach at UCLA. Hit me in the comments section, UCLA fans. What do you want? What do you think about these guys? Yesterday, we talked about LSU commits that might now be up for grabs. You know, a lot of Big Ten schools and LSU, they go over after the same 4- and 5-star kids. And a lot of kids that chose LSU, they, maybe they had Oregon or Michigan or Ohio State on their short list, for example. Well, now that Brian Kelly's been fired, maybe some of those players up for grabs. We talked about that in yesterday's podcast. If you want to go back for a second listen and check it out after this. But we can flip the script on that a little bit. Players that did commit to a Big Ten school, but LSU was in the mix. Now maybe you don't have to worry about it so much. One prime example of that is 5-star defensive back Blaine Bradford. He verbally committed to Ohio State, and LSU was in the mix, but now probably likely to stick it out. Not going to worry about LSU flipping a kid like that on signing day in December. So that's some good news. All right, we always like to take, in the middle of the week, take a look at our Big Ten players of the week. We always like to highlight these kids that we talk about all the time. We actually have a lot of co-players of the week. We got co-offensive players of the week. No surprise here. Justice Haynes from Michigan, the running back, had 26 carries and 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. His third multi-touchdown game of the season helped the Wolverines defeat Michigan State on Saturday. He was responsible for more than half of the team's 276 yards. They rushed the ball as a team like 49 times in that game. It was incredible. And that was the 276 yards was the team's most in this rivalry since 1994. And he recorded the most rushing yards for a Michigan player in the rivalry since Blake Corum did it, 177 yards on 33 carries back in 2002. And Haynes is the first Wolverine player with multiple rushing touchdowns against the Spartans. Again, it's Blake Corum who did it in 2020. So Blake Corum certainly put his stamp on this series as well. But it was great for him because, he had missed the last game and a half due to an injury, came out and looked strong as ever. Also, co-offensive player of the week, Denzel Boston at Washington, wide receiver. He set career highs with 10 catches, 153 receiving yards. Also caught a 6-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter as Washington beat Illinois 42-25. But here's the kicker that probably put him over the top. He also threw a 12-yard touchdown pass to Jonah Coleman on a double pass play. So that was sweet. So he passed for a touchdown and he received a touchdown. And he is the first Husky to record a passing and receiving touchdown in the same game since Dante Pettis did it in 2016. So congratulations there. Over on the other side of the ball, defensive player of the week, Jimmy Rolder at Michigan had a fumble recovery in the first quarter against Michigan State. That's the first of his career, and finished with a career-high 10 tackles, including a sack, and helped limit the Spartans to 3 yards per rush, while also shutting down a key fourth down conversion attempt and breaking up a pass as well. Over on a specialty, we got to have co-special teams players of the week here. First of all, Kenneth Williams, Nebraska. Remember, he opened up the second half with a 95-yard kickoff return to give Nebraska a 14-6 lead in their game this weekend. We talked about him. That made our top 10 Big Ten observations of the week this past Monday's show, if you want to go back and check that out. And that kickoff return for a touchdown was Williams' second of at least 85 yards in the past 3 games and marked Nebraska's first kickoff return for a touchdown since 2017. And he finished the game with 2 kickoff returns for 124 total yards. So he is the Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week, or I should say co-player of the week, because the other one that we also suggested from our top 10 Big Ten observations on Monday, Jai Patel, the kicker for Rutgers, and had the game-winning kick against Purdue. But the setup is an awesome story. He made 2 field goals inside the 2-minute timeout in the fourth quarter to help Rutgers. So he hit the tying field goal, and then 66 seconds later, kicked the game-winning field goal. And that was the first walk-off field goal for the Scarlet Knights since 2015 at Indiana. Converted from 20 yards away to tie the score with 1:06 left before hitting the 30-yarder as time expired for the game winner. And he improved to 40 career field goals made and has 12 games with multiple kicks. So congratulations to him. And then finally, our Big Ten freshman of the week, Jordan Davison from Oregon, the running back, led Oregon to that 21-7 win over Wisconsin with a career-high 102 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 carries. He scored Oregon's first 2 touchdowns and put the Ducks up 14-0, finding the end zone from 3 yards out and 20 yards out. It was his second multi-touchdown game of the season and his second straight 100-yard rushing game. He is the first Oregon freshman to have back-to-back 100-yard rushing games since 2018 and joins program legend Royce Freeman as the only players to rush for 10-plus touchdowns as a true freshman. So congratulations to him. Those are all the awards we have this week in the Big Ten. Now, for our final segment, we always do this. If you are new here, we do something that's kind of neat here on this podcast. We always, our third segment always has a feature. Standalone, we do it every week like clockwork, benchmarks. Mondays, we do our top 10 Big Ten observations for the weekend, as I just mentioned a couple times during our Players of the Week segment. Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets. We're on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. Send me something there. I'll put it on the podcast on Tuesday if it's good. We usually grab about a half a dozen of them or so and feature them. They're all Big Ten related, obviously. Wednesdays, we power rank. We power rank something, but this time of year, we always do the standings, 1 through 18 for football. Thursdays, tomorrow, we take a look at the Big Ten Network. We're not affiliated with them, but we have the same interests. So we look at their schedule. We look at their Big Ten classics that they like to air. They do a great job with that. And then we also highlight the live games that you can watch on Saturday. So that's on tomorrow's podcast. And on Fridays, we go on the record with our pigskin picks. All right. So we can't wait for that. That's always a great, fun way to get into the weekend. In the meantime, we'll do our power rankings 1 through 18. Who's in that top 4 that maybe could get a playoff spot? And a lot of juggling going on in the middle section of our power rankings. Where is your team on the list? We'll have that next in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined for you. It's built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And it offers real time. The Peloton IQ system offers real time strength conditioning. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, and making every rep safer and smarter. And also, they got a swivel screen. It's a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a single beat. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Spell it out, O-N-E, onepeloton.com. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, it is time now for our power rankings. We wait for these every week, right? 1 through 18. Where's your team on the list? I'll put it on the screen. If you're audio only on Spotify or Apple, no problem. We'll just list, it's just a list of teams with their logos and where we think everybody should be. And not a lot of change at the top here this week. I still have Indiana. They had a very convincing win against UCLA. And of course, a nice resume. I pointed this out a couple weeks ago when I moved Indiana against Ohio State, because Ohio State's been number one much of the year. Ohio State's the number one ranked team in the country. I actually think that next Tuesday, when the College Football Playoff Committee puts together their first set of weekly rankings, I actually think that they will put Indiana 1, Ohio State 2, largely when you compare their resumes. Both Ohio State and Indiana beat Illinois, but Indiana throttled them. And I think that quality road win at Oregon, they were top 5 at the time, is much more convincing than, say, Ohio State's season opener win at home against Texas. So I flipped them. They're both great. They look like they're headed for a Big Ten championship game showdown in December. But I still have Indiana 1, Ohio State 2. No change there. No change with Oregon at 3. I was a tad bit concerned with how that Wisconsin game, because Wisconsin had been struggling so badly, and neither team scored for the first 29 minutes of that game. Very concerned about that, but not enough to drop them or move them. So they're still firm at number 3. I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes at number 4. So if we're going to go by the theory that 4 Big Ten teams are getting into the college football playoffs, Iowa would be that 4th team. Look, you look at them, you can't name any one thing that they just dominate in, but they do everything well. Last week, they had a passing touchdown. They had a rushing touchdown. They had a defensive touchdown. They had a special teams touchdown, and they throttled a pretty hot Minnesota team 41-3. USC remains at number 5. They had a bye week. They're at Nebraska. They are under the lights in the blackout game in Lincoln this weekend. That should be a good one. Michigan still got them at number 6. Again, they had the concerning loss at USC, convincing win against Washington, and then a pretty strong win against Michigan State. Washington, I have moved back up. I've moved them back and forth because they've been inconsistent, but I think they finally put together that game I think they've been capable of when they beat Illinois this weekend. And so I moved them back up 2 more spots. They had been around 5 or 6. I think they were up 5, as high as 5 in our power rankings. I dropped them a little bit after that loss to Michigan, in which Jamal Williams had 3 interceptions. But I got them up 2 spaces, up to number 7. Illinois, since Washington beat Illinois last week, I had to make sure Illinois was underneath them at number 8. I dropped them 1. So, look, that was a disappointing loss for Illinois at Washington. Again, that was Washington, maybe their best game all year. Illinois kind of hung with them a little bit, and then Washington kept getting a bigger lead, and then Illinois would climb back sort of in, and then Washington, it was like they were chasing a carrot all day. They could never get it. I got Nebraska at number 3. They're actually our biggest movers this week. Not because they were spectacular last week, but they did get the win against Northwestern, and I moved them up 3. They recovered from that bad loss to Minnesota. Probably a little generous to move them up 3, but I'm moving other people around, and I had to move them ahead of Northwestern, who I dropped 2 following that loss to Nebraska. So I got if there was a recent head-to-head and they go against each other, you got to have the winner on top of the other one. So there we have Northwestern rounding out our top 10. Let's take a look at the best of the rest, and we'll flip the screen here. UCLA at number 11. I only dropped them 1. They cracked our top 10 last week. They did get throttled pretty hard at Indiana after winning 3 in a row. So I just have them at 11. I think that's where they belong right now. Maryland at number 12. I moved them up 1. They had a loss at UCLA, and they started out 4-0. Now they're 4-3. They're coming off a bye, and they got a tough one at home against Indiana. Minnesota dropped them a couple to number 13. Just crushed it against Iowa. That was a bad loss. I thought they were getting it together. Maybe not. Maybe we're premature in that. Penn State, after this horrible run, they're down to 14. That's where they were last week. They were on a bye. They got Ohio State. Prove me wrong, Penn State. Do something against Ohio State. We'll move you back up there. Rutgers at number 15. Move them up 1 after that last-second field goal against Purdue to get the win there. Michigan State, dropped them 1 to number 16. They haven't won a Big Ten game yet. Lost to Michigan. Question marks about Jonathan Smith. I got Purdue and Wisconsin just right where they were at 17 and 18. Purdue, a couple of weeks where they blew one that they could have won against Minnesota, and they blew one that they could have won against Rutgers. And then Wisconsin, I still have them. Look, I thought they played a little better against Oregon. They hadn't scored in 2 games before they went into the Oregon game, and they finally scored in the fourth quarter of that one, but not enough to move them out of the basement of our rankings. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know, and I always appreciate your comments on this stuff as well, and see if we got it right. I think we get them right. I really do. We talk about this stuff all the time. I think I'm pretty confident that we got our poll right. Don't forget, we're going live on Saturday after the Indiana-Maryland game. We'll talk about Indiana. We'll talk about Ohio State and Penn State and their game, which will be at noon. And then we'll preview the night games, including USC and Nebraska, Michigan playing under the lights as well. We'll get you all covered in our live podcast on Saturday night. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe. It's free. And by the way, we're here every day. We're just not live every day, but we'll be live on Saturday. But subscribe for free. We're making a push to 25,000 subscribers. We're at 24,000 and change right now. And don't forget, you can go back and check out a second listen in case you missed any of our podcasts this week. Always invite you to do that. And a note for you college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview that only Locked On can do. So catch the College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. That will do it for us. Thank you for joining us. If you're a Big Ten fan, and you are because you're checking us out, tell your other Big Ten friends and family members that we're here each and every day, and hit the little share arrow and send us their way as well. Let them know that we're here talking about their favorite teams in the Big Ten. That'll do it. Can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. We got some Urban Meyer rumors we're going to talk about in tomorrow's podcast, so you can check that out as well. Plus, we'll have our Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live action for our Thursday podcast. All that coming up. Thanks for joining us here today. Have yourself a great time tonight, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll see you next time.